Hey everyone, it's Satvik Alawalia and your host for the spookiest Progress Texas Happy Hour of 2021. I'm joined by Progress Texas Advocacy Director Dana Gomez, Development Manager Britt Isaacs, and President Ed Espinoza. This week we're covering updates on redistricting and abortion lawsuits, and then our spookiest events, things, people, or sessions of 2021. Before we start, this is a happy hour, so what's everyone drinking today? Brett?
I have a mug with some wine in it, which is perfectly adequate.
Is it spooky wine?
No, it's just drinking wine, which is my favorite kind.
Very, very true. What about you, Diana?
I poured some Truly in a cup.
Wow, this
Switching it up.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of cold outside for me as a Texan. This is cold for me, and so I didn't want a cold hand, so I put it in a cup.
You know, Diana, I got to say, you're creating all these truly amazing opportunities for sponsorship. You know, truly, it's such a versatile drink. You can have it in a can, you can have it in a plastic cup, maybe even a glass cup. I don't know.
Yeah.
You could have anything.
Exactly.
Ed, what about you?
Also drinking white wine. We had it here at the office, and it was readily available. Nothing spooky about it. It's just
that's a
wine
good
and its
excuse.
wine. Yeah.
And I'm actually also having red wine in this really lovely faux Moscow Mule cup. So I wanted to be honest about what it was. It would be cool if it was Moscow Mule, but it's not.
Not Wesley.
Not Wesley.
No.
I can't ever replace it. So the first thing we wanted to talk about is a couple quick updates on these two big things we've talked about week after week: abortion and redistricting. Ed, do you want to dive in and give us an update about what's happening in the redistricting world when it comes to lawsuits?
Yeah. So as a reminder, Texas has redrawn its legislative districts, its congressional districts here in the state, as well as our state board of education districts. There is a challenge to those districts now that the governor has signed those maps. He signed the bill authorizing those maps. They are now the maps that we are to go off of, unless this court case says differently. So one of the major groups, a number of major groups have filed suit. And the case is that these lines were drawn based on race, not on politics. And it's pretty evident when you see that 95% of the state's growth was people of color, and not one district was gained that is a majority minority area. So this is very similar to what happened 10 years ago when 85% of the state's growth was people of color, and we didn't see much change. The courts did intervene there, though it took them some time. I expect that they will intervene again. We can hope that it's going to be quick, but you just never know. And unfortunately, that's all we know at this point.
I have a question, Ed. Since you saw it happen once before, who then redraws the maps if the court sides with us?
It's like a ping pong match, right? It goes back and forth. So the courts will send it back to the legislature. The legislature might make an adjustment, or the courts themselves could decide that they are suddenly going to be the map makers, and they may draw some maps. And then, of course, the folks defending the legislators' maps would then appeal it. It would go to a higher court, and then that higher court will decide, was it the lower court that should draw the maps? Was it the legislatures that should draw the maps? So the answer is a very murky, it's Texas politics for you.
Yeah. That doesn't sound like any fun at all.
No, that was not one bit.
And Diana, you were talking earlier about some updates around the SCOTUS court case. Fill us in.
Yeah, definitely. So as we have all known for a long time, that Texas is involved in some lawsuits. And what a lot of folks might not know is that they're actually going before the Supreme Court next week, starting on November 1st. Now, abortion care has been almost nearly impossible to access in Texas since SB 8, the nation's most restrictive abortion ban, has gone into effect on September 1st. But next week, oral arguments in front of the Supreme Court will begin on two lawsuits that are involving Texas and this abortion ban. One is the United States versus Texas, with the Department of Justice being the representative of the United States, and Whole Women's Health v. Jackson, Now, something really important to note here is that the oral arguments, the results of them that will begin next week, will not decide whether or not to strike down Texas's 6-week abortion ban as unconstitutional, even though we all know it's extremely unconstitutional because of Roe versus Wade. What it will instead do is address key components in these two cases. So in the order that the Supreme Court released about these cases, it stated that the Department of Justice case, which is the U.S. versus Texas, will decide whether the federal government has the right to sue in federal court to block the law's enforcement. And in the Whole Woman's Health case, the court will evaluate the ban's private enforcement structure. So it's still very important. It actually, the Supreme Court had decided it would hear these cases later in December, which is when the Supreme Court usually hear these cases. But the Department of Justice is asking them to hear them as soon as possible. And that's why it's starting next week. Progress Texas will keep an eye on the cases, the results, and we'll have an explainer up on our website with more information about these cases up soon so that you can go and read more about it.
So let me ask, Dana, one of them, it sounds like it's focusing more on the really weird enforcement mechanism. Like, what are the stakes if that gets upheld? Like, what would happen across the U.S.? If
they found on the side of Texas? Yeah, so definitely. So as we've seen in Texas, unfortunately, it's become nearly impossible to access an abortion. And another really important case for folks to know is that in December, starting December 1st, a Mississippi case will be up in front of the Supreme Court. And this is a case that is asking to overturn Roe versus Wade. So when we're talking about the implications, this is, obviously the biggest one. It would overturn Roe versus Wade, making abortion unconstitutional. And something really important to know in Texas is that we have what a lot of other states have as well, which is in like a trigger ban. So if this happens, abortion could become unconstitutional in about half of the country. So we will, let y'all folks know what is happening. There will be actions in DC, in Texas, across the state, letting folks know that no matter what the results is of this case, of what the Supreme Court decides, abortion is a human right, abortion is healthcare, and we as Texans will not stop fighting until Texans and everyone else in the U.S. is able to access abortion care that they need and deserve.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think it's so weird that if Texas defines that we can just send our neighbors to spy and spook and ghost other people for getting an abortion, why can't California do the same thing for guns, right? Or why can't Massachusetts say, hey, Sopik, if you know that Ed didn't get vaccinated, call the cops on him. And it's not even it's so much bigger than abortion. It's about every single part of American life. It's pretty freaky.
Yeah, spooky.
It's pretty spooky.
Spooky.
Which gets us to the scary stories of 2021. And I'm going to kick it off with what I think is the worst Halloween costume of 2021. You all might know Mitt Romney. He's this guy from Massachusetts or Utah or somewhere. He's run for president many times and lost, which is a good thing. But he dressed up as one of my favorite characters, Ted Lasso. Okay, and he is no Ted Lasso. If he wanted to be a Ted, he could dress up as, swamp creature Ted Cruz, but not Ted Lasso, who's like Ted Lasso is my spirit animal. And to see Mitt Romney, this soulless evil person who's trying to take stuff away from poor Americans, it's don't put Ted Lasso on. I can't accept it. And if you've seen the photo on Twitter, which hopefully you haven't, because Twitter also is an evil swamp of a place, there's another person in the image, and I know Brett has some feelings about this person. Brett, let out.
Ooh, the spookiest person of 2021 for me has got to be Kirsten Sinema, everyone's least favorite person, not just senator from Arizona, not just senator, everyone's least favorite person. And the thing about Kirsten Sinema that really gets me, I know this is maybe seems less important than some of the other things, but if you're going to behave like a Bond villain, why not at least have the fashion sense to dress like one? But instead, every time I see a picture with her, it's almost like it's almost disrespectful how bad she manages to look while she's, disrespecting all of our, rights and our priorities. And, I was saying to myself when we were talking about this, that I wouldn't get personal, but Sophic rightfully pointed out that she is getting personal with the fact that she doesn't want to grant us any of the things that we've been, block walking and knocking on doors for to get this Democratic majority in the House, the Senate, to get a Democrat in the White House. So you know what, Kirsten Sinema? Your fashion sense sucks.
Did anybody see the thing on Twitter where the musician Aaron Neville posted the picture of what he was wearing compared to what she was wearing when she was wearing like the denim vest jacket over like a black shirt, sitting at the head of the Senate, and he just tweeted out, "I believe I wore it better."
He did.
Anyone would have worn that better.
Yeah, anyone would have definitely worn it better.
Have y'all seen? I feel like I've seen a lot of Twitter threads recently comparing Sinema to various items. One was Sinema as a thread of pictures of different dumpsters across the United States that were just spray painted in different colorful ways. And she looked exactly like each one of them.
This is true.
Amazing. Mm-hmm.
She is she has been a successful politician because she has been able to kind of like move and modify with the politics of Arizona. The problem is that like right now, Arizona is moving more to the left and has been for a while, and she's not. And she talks about wanting to get things done, but like all she's doing is impeding things from getting done out there. I really don't understand where she's coming from. I know that nobody else does either, but I just thought it was worth putting it out there.
Oh, no. We know why she's doing what she's doing. It's because she's raising the big bucks, yeah. Let's be real.
Is she?
Why does Ted Cruz do what she does?
The only time she says what she's thinking is at fundraiser meetings. I mean, and I'm in development. I'm not opposed to you saying things to donors, but that should not be the only time that you're communicating with the people who are your constituents. I mean, it's absurd. This is the United States of America. It's supposed to be one person, one vote. But instead, rather than helping out the people who elected her, she's treating it like this is her, retirement plan for after the Senate term.
Side note, I worked with her a bit back in 2006 when I was working in Arizona. Got to know her over the years. I'll be honest with you, seemed like a very smart politician back then. And I'm sure in some ways that she thinks what she's doing is smart in terms of Arizona's politics, but I don't see it. I know you guys don't either. And in the meantime, she's ruining Ted Lasso along with Mitt Romney. So let's move on to the next one.
She must be possessed.
Maybe haunted.
Yeah.
Dana, what is your scary story for 2020?
My scary story is speaking of hauntings. Well, I guess I'm thinking of him more as like a zombie, actually something that's not human at all. Ted Cruz, who is always haunting us and seems to be forever haunting us, but hopefully one day, nevermore, will be. But recently, during a questioning that he was doing with Attorney General Merrick Garland, he sort of stood up for a really weird thing to stand up for and defend, which was parents making Nazi salutes at school board meetings, very much pointing out that they had the right to do that, which just a weird thing to come out and defend. But, I don't know why I'm surprised at Ted Cruz defending something terrible like that.
He, of all the things to get worked up over, like, yes, okay, somebody has a constitutional right to free speech and to defend Nazis. But like, if you're a U.S. senator, is this the hill you die on? Is this the one you pick to champion? And Ted Cruz, even you should be able to read the room, Ted Cruz.
The problem is that he kind of can read the room, because I was on his website, which is hysterical. I really hope Google doesn't remember that. But I was on his website reading through the transcript of that exchange, and I did a Command F search. And you know what word was conveniently missing from that transcript was the word Nazi. Wow. He did not have a mention of that specific exchange in this transcript that's supposed to be presented to, I guess, donors and supporters and available for the public. So it's a convenient rewriting of what happened. And in addition, the context of that exchange, I think, is really important because, obviously many things are protected under the First Amendment. However, his point was not that these people have a right to do what they did, which they technically do, however abhorrent it is. His point was that Merrick Garland was incorrect in classifying a Nazi salute as potentially violent, or classifying it under a rise in like potentially violent demonstrations. And he was saying, why would you say that that's potential violence? Well, Ted, I think there's a lot of, historical background that would explain why, if you would care to listen or read, but maybe that's too much CRT for you.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to your point, Brett, like learning about Nazis might hurt his feelings because we don't talk about them really kindly in history books.
That's right.
And as we all know, like the facts don't care about your feelings crowd is now feelings first crowd, trying to ban books and everything. So it makes perfect sense why he'd be offended that like we would degrade Nazis like that.
Well said.
And Ed, I know you had the spookiest stories of all.
Well, I don't know if it's the spookiest. It's definitely one of the spookiest this week. I mean, Ted Cruz and Nazis, it's hard to beat that one. But since we're talking about the subject of fascism and Nazis, let's talk about something that State Representative Matt Krause here in Texas did this week. He came out with a list of books that he said should be banned from Texas classrooms. That's right, folks. He wants to he wants to have an actual book ban. He didn't go so far as to say book burning, but it's probably not far behind. Here's a list of some of the things that he wanted banned. In African-American and Latinx history of the United States. W is for welcome, a celebration of America's diversity. Pride, the story of Harvey Milk and the rainbow flag. Here's one that's very controversial. Sexual health information for teens.
Oh, that is spooky stuff.
Yeah, and then Roe v. Wade, abortion and women's right to privacy. So, look, I mean, these are I don't think that any of these are controversial books, nor ones that are hard to find anywhere. And another thing to think about here, when you tell kids, teenagers, that they can't have something, it only makes them want it more. And the thing is that all of this is like a 5-second Google search away from anybody else. So I think that what he's doing is actually ends up creating more interest for these things, more demand, but it doesn't stop him from wanting to completely just like ban books. And I think that that's an extremely spooky thing heading into this Halloween.
I feel like we're going to start seeing different forbidden books being trafficked from across our state lines from other states and create this like desperate want from them in back alleys and exchanging these books.
like a trench coat. Hey, buddy, you want to buy a book?
Yeah.
I'm so excited to start running like a black market, banned book library from my car trunk. So you can look out for that. It's a blue Toyota Corolla, and I will have the stash.
You know those like little free libraries in front of people's houses. You're going to have like an underground railroad, but like of free libraries where people pass the banned books around, and like it's going to be like Clifford the Big Red Dog or something like that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
There's a website I found where you can translate everyday normal English words into conservative speak, and when you type in ban, do you want to guess what word comes up when you type in ban? Cancel. So the folks who are fighting cancel culture, quote unquote, for those listening on the podcast, are trying to cancel books. They're trying to cancel Harvey Milk, trying to cancel women's rights. I mean, I guess we should have seen it coming, but yeah, that's some spooky ass stuff.
I think
they literally are trying to cancel women's rights. So
100%.
Yeah, literally. We talked about it earlier in the show.
Another word that reminds me of is snowflake. Now, besides the tiny puppy that Ted Cruz abandoned, besides thinking of Snowflake as the dog, also, these are the people that talk about don't hurt, that people's feelings. But it feels like anything that makes them uncomfortable or makes them feel hurt, they want to ban these books and no one to talk about it at all.
Yeah. All right.
It's pretty absurd. Actually, we should make a series of books about things that are spooky to them. So, Ted Cruz and the flight to Cancun. Like, I think that would be
We didn't, speaking of Ted Cruz, do you guys know he hates avocados?
What?
Of course he does. Oh my God. That makes so much sense.
Ted Cruz hates avocados. This is a fact, and we know it because he told us.
Really?
Google it. Google Ted Cruz avocados, Dallas Observer. That was they're the ones who broke the story like some 10 years ago. Or just go on the Progress Texas site and type in avocados. It'll probably be the only thing that comes up. He hates them. He can't stand them. And this is what happens when you elect a senator in Texas who is actually from Canada. You get somebody who doesn't identify with you and hates avocados. He even says it. He's like, I hate them. Just hate them. Well, what kind of hate speech is that?
But you know what, though? That's probably why he's so rich. Because he's not eating avocado toast like all of us millennials. Keeping us locked in poverty.
I mean, but that and probably the backdoor campaign donations. I mean, let's not be crazy. Avocados are expensive, but
not that expensive.
Definitely the avocado toast.
I want to bring up one more spooky thing. And this spooky thing person session has been haunting us since January 1st, basically. And it's the special sessions and legislative sessions. Mm-hmm. This was so spooky. I still can't sleep at night. I mean, Diana, Ed, like you guys were so involved with the leg session, and especially what are like some of the spookiest things that you can remember?
Oh God, you mean the spookiest things I'm trying to forget?
Well, yes, exactly. That's why you remember them. So I forgot them.
Trauma.
Yeah, permitless carry, banning abortion, making it harder to vote. Oh God, go to my lists here. Attacking kids, trying to let COVID run rampant.
I feel like Governor Abbott has given me so much PTSD. One, in the fact that they didn't spend any of this legislative session fixing our power grid. And so I feel like anytime the light flickers, I'm just like thinking, are the power going to go out again? What are we going to do? And then also, we're pretty sure that the last special session has ended. It's over. But every day, I don't want to jinx it. I get scared he's going to call another one. And I drink more Truly.
It keeps you warm in the cold. Well, man, I'm scared right now. I need to go hang out with my daughter because she makes me feel safe.
Well, as folks can see, the ledge session is over. The next campaign hasn't really kicked off yet. So we get a chance to talk about some of the spooky stories that happened the past year. Maybe have a little fun, do a lighter podcast this week. If folks are interested in some of our materials, our Humans Against Ted Cruz materials, you can go to the Progress Texas web store, get your Humans Against Ted Cruz sign. If you look behind me, wrong one. If you're watching this and you look behind me, you can see right there we have that Humans Against Ted Cruz sign. It's just above the ghost that lives in our office. And you can get a Humans Against Ted Cruz sticker on the web store. It's on our webpage. Go into the footer where it says, I think it says
store.
I think it says store. Get a sticker there. We're clever like that. You can get it at Halloween. You can get it for Christmas. Actually, you can get it all year round.
Yeah.
That's my plug. Our product placement plug. Folks, we don't have a sponsor, so we got to sponsor ourselves.
Yeah.
That's what this
we
is.
truly wish that we had a truly great sponsor to truly help us,
spread the word.
One of these
spread
days.
the truly good work.
Yes, and get your stickers early, get your shopping done early, because supply chain issues.
That's right.
Spooky supply chain problems.
Spooky.
Yeah, Diana, I'm still waiting on that Democratic candidate. When is that one coming?
Supply chain.
Oh God, it's really backed up.
So
truly,
actually,
like what happens in California then causes a backup here in Texas.
Yeah.
Don't love that.
No.
One last quick thing. As I'm looking at the clock right now, it's 2:30 p.m., which means you have, I think, 4.5 hours of early vote left. I'm going to quickly drop our Progress Texas voter guide in the chat. And I really encourage you to share it with your friends if you've already voted. And if you haven't voted, we've got all the best recommendations on how to vote for the ballots 1 through 8 and Prop A here in Austin if you're living here. The turnout is really bad. And so if you vote, you're basically 10xing your vote. So make sure that you haven't voted yet, you go do it. If you don't vote today, you can vote on November 2nd. And all that information is on our ballot guide and at govotetexas.org. And Diana, Brett, Ed, thanks for lending your expertise and your amazing storytelling skills. To everyone who's watching and listening, thanks for joining us. Head over to progresstexas.org to follow us on social and subscribe to our email list. If you're listening to us, subscribe on your favorite podcast app and leave us a review. Have a really spooky weekend, and we'll see you all next week. Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.